Okay, so hi all. This is our day 10 of Google Cloud Fundamentals training. So the topics that we are going to cover, or I would say, it is going to be a continuation of our day 9 discussion. So in our previous session, we talked about Google Cloud security services, IAM, how the security is controlled in the GCP environment, and we looked into the various ways how we assign the authentication and authorization for using the cloud identity and cloud IAM, right? Now we are going to continue further, and we will be covering the topics like cloud infrastructure security, data security, and security command center, which on very high level means audit logging and monitoring, a real-time monitoring of security posture on the platform, right? So this is going to be our topic for day 10. But apart from that, also, if time permits, we will be going through a lab, which where we are going to explore uh, how the firewall rules work, how we create any firewall rules, and that's how we are able to control the flow of communication from external world to the GCP environment. So in this scenario, we are going to create a computing instance. We will be also creating a network tag for the instance, and with the use of that network tag, we'll be creating a firewall rule. So ensuring that you are only allowing access to your instance from a particular set of IPs. It can be your own known IP, or you can even allow it to the world, but which we try to avoid otherwise. So we'll go through that and we'll learn how the firewall rules are created and how that works. What does they really mean? Okay. So if the context is clear to you, let's continue our session today. Okay. Right. Let me move. Okay. So as we discussed in our previous sessions about the shared responsibility and other topics, so today we are going to start with the infrastructure security first. Okay. Now let me take you with another screen. Fine. So if you can confirm it is readable to you. Is it okay? Can someone confirm?
Yes, you can.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So here we are talking about the infrastructure security, right? So do you remember the two things that I talked about? The security of the cloud and security in the cloud, right? So now here we are taking a look from more of the security of the cloud, first of all, where we talk about the hardware infrastructure security, right? So these are big premises where the data centers are created, the physical data centers I'm talking about, which is present very much remotely at multiple locations, and they are secured by the physical securities, like the actual mans are deployed, or the premises is secured with the fences and the logs and different layers. I mean, there are multiple layers of security installed in either of these Google Cloud data centers, which avoids entry for any individual easily, unless there is a real work for them to go inside it and then try to fix something at their physical presence, right? So that is where the hardware infrastructure security plays a role. Now, whenever I say infrastructure, like you can say the physical infrastructure, right? So here the multiple layers we are discussing, they can be like the data centers are nothing but what we talked about the different layers whenever we are talking about the cloud Google Cloud infrastructure. So we talked about global regions, and then you have a regional and the zonal resources, right? Now, so data center is nothing but a zone. Okay, I hope you recall the very first session that we had started with. So we were where we were talking about the data center, which is nothing but equivalent to the you can say a zone, right? So these zones will have the data centers installed, and that is secured by the physical securities. Okay. Now, once that is taken care, so that is the very much basic, the foundation of any security here. Now that becomes the very first layer. The next step is that we are going to deploy any of the services on those data centers, right? So whenever we are going to deploy it, we want to ensure that the way these applications are deployed, they are scanned properly, they have tagging added, which ensures that it is coming from a trusted provider. Okay, and that is how we are deploying. And if it is not from someone from a trusted partner, or maybe if it is not signed with some authorizations, I'm not going to use that particular service or the application. I will discard it, right? That's another layer of a service, or another layer of security that we are applying in the cloud. Okay, so this particular hardware infrastructure was more of the security of the cloud. Now here we are talking about the security in the cloud. Okay, similar to that, we also talk about the cloud storage, the storage services, how the security is taken care when we are working with the storage services. So in the case of storage services, if you recall, so we talked about the storage services are either regional, dual regional, or it can be multi-regional, right? So here in this indicator, if you are able to see, they are trying to showcase, if suppose you are going to save the data here, okay, now it is going to create multiple copies of the same data to other regions, or other, yes, in the other regions. And in that region also, there will be multiple zones. That is where the data is actually residing, right? So this data is going to be copied multiple places, so that it ensures you are not losing your data at any cost at any point of time. And just to add a pointer here, Google Cloud Storage provides 11 nines of the SLA, or you can say the availability. Okay, so 11.9 means that you are not going to lose uh, a single data even for thousands year of time, right? That's the level of availability they are ensuring here. Okay, so that is another layer of security when it comes to the data side of it. Then from the identity aspect, we already talked about it. So from the identity aspect, if you see, we have talked about it yesterday. So we saw that cloud IAM is one particular service, and there is another cloud identity. These two combined are ensuring no person, no service, neither of any API calls, anything can get access to the cloud Google Cloud environment unless they are authorizing themselves and authenticating themselves. I mean, first authenticating themselves and then authorizing themselves, right? So unless these two components are made, unless we have ensured that they are someone to be trusted, we do not allow access to the environment. Again, so that also again becomes the security in the cloud. Okay. Now another layer, we know internet communication. So for the internet communication, that is something on the networking side of it, where we'll be seeing how the virtual private clouds are created and how we ensure that only authorized people, like using these IAM controls only, how they are able to access our VPCs if they have right set of rules assigned to them. Otherwise, they cannot access our environment in the cloud platform. Okay? So that is on the network communication or the connectivity from the external world to the environment. And the another aspect to be seen here is from the operational and the device security. So we talked about how the the devices are secured using the context-aware setup, where we will see that, okay, a device which is trying to access the console, or maybe through the command line, whether they are from someone to be trusted, whether they are meeting all set of compliance. Okay, so we'll be checking their compliance, and as well as whether I can be able to identify that person who is trying to access it on a particular device, right? So these two components would also be checked whenever I'm allowing any device to connect to this cloud environment, right? So that is more on the operational side, or the device security aspect. So that is, if you see this overall, all this scenario covered, hardware infrastructure security, service deployment, identity, storage services, internet communication, and the operational and device security, all these combined are actually ensuring that whenever you are working on Google Cloud, it is providing me a in-depth security, and it can be scaled to the highest level, right? So you are starting to create any resources in a zone, it can be deployed even to the region, and the same is going to be available even at the you can say the global level, right? So that is how we are secure on this platform. Okay? That's on. Again, the topic that we are discussing here is the infrastructure security. Okay? That is what it covers here. Now, not only from this aspect, I mean, this is obviously covering your most of the scenarios, right? But also the devices that we are using here, like for the data, I mean, the data center that is built, okay, the networks that we are creating, even the storage that we use, okay. So all of these are ensuring they are actually purpose built, which means they are meant for that particular task, or that particular, keeping in mind that which we want to ensure the security of our data, we want to ensure the security of the network, right? So based on that, the hardware modules are also developed, and they are very much purpose driven, right? That's what it means. Okay. So altogether combined, which these all are giving the right set of security to our GCP environment. Fine. Any questions that we have here? Okay, no problem. So let's move on to the next topic. Okay. So we talked about the infrastructure security. Now, next what? Next, let's see what we have. Okay. So now we talked about the infrastructure security. Let's talk about data security, which is again going to be more covering on the how we are handling our data, because that is altogether what why we are trying to work out on the cloud platform. In very gist of it, we are using or taking our data to the cloud, and then performing all sort of operations, and then taking it back or serving to the users, right? So here the very major component is the data, and we want to ensure that whenever we are dealing with the data, they are very secure at all time, not only just for a single piece of scenario, but every time whenever it is in motion or it is at stay, okay, whenever it is just kept aside, right? So even then also I need to ensure the data is secure. Okay, so let's see the data security here now. Okay. So from data security aspect, if you see, there are various ways that we want to ensure our data is secure, right? So the very first that I want to highlight before I jump to the data loss prevention, DLP, let's first discuss about the encryption. Okay, as long as the data that I'm working with, if it is encrypted, I should be fine with working on it, right? So here I'm going to talk about the encryption or the way the data is encrypted. So if you see, whenever we are bringing our data to the Google Cloud platform, it is encrypted by default. So by default, whenever we touch any data, either it is coming from the on-premises or it is coming from another cloud, maybe AWS Azure or any other sort of cloud, when as soon as we establish a connection using the cloud storage, I mean the storage transfer service, or we can have the database migration services where that is also a data, right? So even for that also, whenever we start any sort of this transfer, first of all, the very first thing that Google does is they are going to encrypt it, and then only it is going to start the migration or start the transfer. So at any point of time, the data is going to be encrypted, and once we receive the data on the platform, on the on either of the service, like if we are talking about the cloud storage service, so there also whenever it is going to keep there in either of the layer, we if you try to connect the pieces here. So in the cloud storage, we saw we had different life cycles with different layers. It was near line, I mean the standard one first of all, then near line where we keep don't touch the data for at least 30 days. Then we had the code line where we are not touching the data for 3 months, and then we have the archival, which is like you don't retrieve the data at least for a year. So even when the data is actually residing in all of these layers, even there also the data is actually encrypted by default using the Google Cloud's own encryption method. Okay. But let's see what are the other ways to encrypt the data, right? So otherwise, like by default, anyway, Google is taking care of it. But there can be organizations which do not rely only on the cloud provider's data encryption method, because they want to have better control here, right? They want to participate more on the way the data is handled, or the data is actually kept on the cloud provider environment, right? And the organization could be anything like the financial accounts or the banking sector, right? Even the healthcare information. They don't want to just allow any cloud provider to let use their own encryption method, though it is secure, but they don't rely on it. So what they do, they are actually going to use their way of managing the encryptions, right? So now, if you see here, we have the cloud, I mean the encryption by default, which is provided by Google Cloud. It is more of automated, okay, and obviously it is very secure. The advantage that we get is we keep on rotating the encryption key. So obviously whenever we are going to encrypt anything, there will be a key and value pair, right? So the key that is used for encrypting this data is been taken care by Google Cloud, and that's how they are keep on rotating it in regular interval of time, so that no one, if anyone is actually trying to spoof into your information, your data, they cannot access it, because the encryption keys are getting rotated on regular basis. It can be like a daily in within 24 hour, or even more than that, so that depends, right? But there is going to be some sort of, you can say, the costing as well, that we can look into it, right? But what are the other ways that we can handle the encryption keys? So there is another service called Cloud Key Management Service, that is KMS. So this helps in managing the keys that I want to maintain. So here by default encryption is done. That is one method. The another method is the Cloud KMS. Okay. So Cloud KMS, where you get an opportunity, you as a customer get an opportunity to manage the way the keys are actually rotated, the keys are actually handled. So it is going to be an additional effort for you, but that's how the use case is, right? So the customer wants to manage the key. That can be another scenario here. Okay. Now, what if customer is still not happy with it? I mean, they want to have even more rigid way of controlling the access to this data. So they can even opt for this. I mean, they can store these keys not only on the key management service provided by GCP, but there is another service which is called HSM, right? HSM is hardware security module. It's a hardware device. In the hardware device, you will be generating some codes, and that is going to be used for encrypting your data or maintaining your keys. Now that is even better way of encrypting and I mean keeping the keys that you are going to handle for encrypting your data. Okay. So if you can see here, if you want to manage it better, okay, so you can keep the keys in the cloud for direct use by the cloud service, where we are going to use the cloud key management service, that is KMS. Okay. Or even the HSM also can be used. Okay. Now there is another method which is also preferred by the financial sectors, financial industries. Okay. Even most of the banking sector, they would prefer to bring their own encryption key. So they are going to create an encryption key in their own personal, I mean, in their own premises environment. Now that key they are going to use for encrypting this data whenever they are going to push this data to the cloud environment. Okay. So this is another method. So we have by default encryption, we have managed key service, like the customer is managing the key that is actually generated by the cloud provider itself. Okay. And there is one more method, that customer is bringing its own key and using it for encryption of the data, right? So these three methods we normally use, but there are like some other also. We can have HSM in a co-location facility, the hardware which is used for generating the key and then encrypting it. So that's again another one which is not much used, I would say, not much discussed. Okay. But you can also have another scenario where you are going to bring you like use another external service for maintaining or managing the keys. So you know this KMS. So KMS is provided by the Google, I mean the cloud provider itself. EKM, which is external key manager, is another kind of like a third party or the open source key management service, which can be used again for managing the encryption key and ensuring that the data wherever I'm handling, that is encrypted by default. I mean, encrypted all the time, right? All the time it should be encrypted. Okay. So these are the various methods to handle your data and secure it properly, right? Now, also there is another concept which is called confidential computing. Like it's giving you a complete separate environment for you to keep all of your data into separate machines, and in that you are going to keep the data. You are managing your keys. Okay, all of that sort of things being done. So here again we are ensuring that even when you use the data, right? So one is like when it is in transfer, so you are bringing it from external sources to the environment, or you are moving it from the GCP environment to the external, right? That is a data in motion, or data while it is in transferring stage. Then we talked about the data when it is stored and how we are encrypting it all this time. Now when the data is actually being used, right? So you are not just bringing the data, but whenever you are going to bring the data, you want to perform the computation on it. Like you want to do the transformation to it, you want to extract out some information from the data, right? So that is where the computations are performed, and you are going to review that. And even in that scenario, we want to ensure none of the information is getting leaked, right? So for that, you can have a dedicated confidential computing setup where it is not I mean abstracting out all the information to a separate environment, and that is where you are performing all these tasks. And once it is done, then you store it back to the maybe cloud storage, cloud SQL, or passing it on to the external devices, right? Now, apart from this concept, okay, this is more from the encryption perspective of it. Like I don't want it to be viewed by any in any of the I mean it should not be readable for a human whenever we are encrypting the data, right? But I also want to ensure when I use the data, okay, it should ensure that some of the sensitive information, like you can say the personally identifiable information, which is PII, or yeah, so that is something that we can talk about, like the name of the person, their health condition, what is their age, the gender, even their pin code, their bank account number, credit number, on very high level if you see. So this is very sensitive information pertaining to one particular individual, right? So I want to mask this data, okay, so that no one, I mean, even whenever this is being processed by this sort of two services like BigQuery, cloud storage, or data storage, right? Or if it is in moving stage, like you can see here, the data is being moved to the cloud from any cloud on premises to the any resources, right? So whenever it is in transit also, or it is being used by these services, I want to mask out some of this confidential information because they are not relevant for me for the processing that I'm going to do, or the analysis that I'm going to do. Okay, so they are not going to participate in the that aspect. So I'm going to mask it as till the time it is in the processing, and once I'm done with all those process, then I will be de-identifying it when the user is going to utilize it, or another service which is going to, like if I'm doing some payment. So by default it is encrypted, right? But whenever it is going to consume, I'm going to securely pass on the details to the payment gateway, and then it is going to be utilized by that payment gateway, right? So here, first of all, I'm classifying, inspecting what sort of data it is, then try to mask it, or which is what we call as a de-identify it, so that no one can understand it, or I'm going to reduct it. I'm going to completely delete it based on our use case. We opt for that scenario, and for this particular setup, we use data loss prevention service, DLP, okay, which helps in discovering or understanding what sort of data it is, try to classify it, whether it's a PII data, credit card information, right? And then I try to protect the sensitivity of this data by masking it out, like de-identifying it or reducting it, completely deleting that particular part of information whenever I'm going to consume it from external sources to the cloud environment here, right? Like it is going to be consumed by cloud storage or BigQuery, or maybe store kind of services where I'm going to keep it, right? So that covers on the data security aspect of the service. Anyone got any thought here? Any question you got here? Everything is understood? Shall I move forward?
Yes, Jitendra.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so let's move forward. Fine. So we talked about the data security. Now let's see the next slide, which is about the security monitoring. Okay. So for that, again, let's take another screen. Fine. So far, if you have seen, we talked about the cloud security service. I mean, the security services, the various services under it, which is called like cloud IAM, cloud identity, the data security, then the infrastructure security, right? Application security as well, network security, right? So all of that, okay, that's a lot many components to be handled, right, all together. And I want to have a single pane view for all of these components. I cannot go uh, and check each of those services and see what they are doing, right? That's very difficult, right? So to handle this particular scenario, this use case, what I'm going to do, I will be having another service which is going to ask me a lot of control to visualize how my security posture looks like as of the current scenario, which is very much on real time in the environment wherever I'm deploying my resources, right? So the service is known as the security command center, right? So here, let me enlarge it again. So as I said, we need to monitor security in the cloud, and for that we have the security command center, right? And let's see how it works. So as soon as I enable this security command center API, it is going to create a service account, right? And that service account is going to have a lot many permissions, which will help me scan through all of the services or most of the services that fall under the security components. Okay, and that's how it enables me to scan through and identify if there are any application vulnerabilities or if there are any misconfigurations, what are the assets that are being created on the platform. Okay, and it also helps me detect any kind of the threats caused due to any miss event happens, or even it helps in checking for the threat detection for the containers, like in the containers whenever we create. So sometimes it happens that whenever we work with the docker file we had seen during the Kubernetes session. So in that the docker file, whenever we create, sometimes it happens that we let the root user access to people, right, which is wrong. So even that can be detected using the container threat detection service, right? So what does security command center does? It is giving me a asset view. Okay, it also helps me in finding the securities, the security concerns, and it also helps, combined with all of these security postures, it generates a compliance report, like whether, because any organization who is working or utilizing this data, handling the services, everything, right? So they are actually compliant with a lot many certificates which is required for any organization to run. Now this all is being compared with those compliance requirements, okay, and ensures that based on this analysis, it will give me a report of the compliance, whether what are the compliance concerns or what are the services that did not meet this compliance, right? So that is going to be produced as a report, and we need to be taking action on it and remediate and respond to it as per the requirement, right? So that is about on very high level about the security command center. I will be showcasing it through the console as well to gain you better understanding here. Okay, for now, let's bear with me and then see what all things it is going to help me in visualizing and try to see if we can control it better, right? Okay. So let's see what all things it can do. So it can have a centralized visibility and the control over most of the Google Cloud data and resources, like the the encryption keys that we have used, the encrypted form of the encryption keys, right? The version that is being used, the buckets, the storage bucket here, if it is being you can say the version control is done fine. If we have not exposed it to the public, okay, even that can be identified. Like whenever you create a storage bucket, you must have seen that it asks you whether you want to enable the public access or not. Okay, so even that can be detected, and it is going to inform you back that okay, it is exposed to the public, which is not recommended, right? So it is going to give you a sort of recommendation what needs to be done to fix any of these concerns, right? Okay, so similar to that, it is going to check if you have any firewall open which gives access to the whole world. Again, that is not recommended, right? And similar to that, I can also take some of the example of the application security. The applications are working fine if they have any threat detected, right? So all of that can be viewed at one place by the security command center. Now, next, it can help me identify if there are any misconfiguration which is going to be vulnerable for the web application that you're hosting. Okay, so that again falls into the same category. You can see like the IAM permissions that is giving if it is too privileged for someone to access the application. Okay, like if we add any admin privilege for some external user, that is not great, right? So that's something should be looked into. Now, apart from that, also we can detect any threats which is targeting our Google Cloud asset. Like the Google Cloud asset here is the resources we work with, right? So it can even identify if there is any IAM abuses happening, any sort of reverse proxies are being used, right? So all of these can be identified. Uh, yes, Vishal. So let me see if I can get a better view. Okay, let me share another screen then. Does it look good now?
Yes.
Okay, fine. So again, if you can see here, I was talking about the misconfiguration and web application vulnerabilities, which is more of how the key management service is working. If it is not updating the keys on regular basis, right? I should be able to identify that and handle it fine. Okay? It can identify any phishing attacks happening in the environment. If there is any reverse shell being created and it is trying to spoof into your environment, right? So all of that can be detected and reported on this, I mean the security command center itself. And this is very vast topic actually altogether. If you see just one particular this service covers a lot many things. It can also talk about if you see here. So it is talking about the single pane of glass for the. Give me a second. Let it go. Oh, okay. Yeah, I think this is better. Okay, so it talks about the binary authorization, the cloud DLP API. If enabled, it will look through that. Okay, so it is going to use it for finding out any of these security concerns. So these are the actual application used behind the scene by the security command center service to identify, okay, like binary authorization, cloud DLP, data loss prevention, cloud armor, that is more of the web security, like it is deployed in the front end, okay, just before your load balancer, the front end load balancers, and it scans if there are any web application vulnerabilities there, right? Then force it is being integrated. It is probably a open source tool that got integrated, or maybe an organization. I do not have the right set of information there as of now. I don't recall it probably, but it is again contributing a lot in building this the web UI for the security command center, where it scans to all or most of the services and identify if there are any security concerns, right? Okay, now let me take you to another tab where I can showcase uh, about the security command center itself, right? Or better, I will let someone share your screen and then open your console. and we'll walk through from there on this security command center, because I have already enabled my API, which will not be more beneficial, right? So can someone share their screen and open the console? Anyone wants to share now?
I will share, Jitendra. Just a second.
Okay, sure, Raju. See, this can also contribute to your one of the lab. Okay, so definitely you should give it a try on your own setup. Okay.
Can you enable that one? I don't have access to share the screen.
Yes, I can. Okay, can you give it a try now?
Yes, try. Is it visible now?
Yes, Raju, it is visible now.
Okay.
So let's go through it. Can you search for security command center? Let's go from the left hand side. Yeah, let's go from the left hand side and scroll down, and let's yeah, you can see the security tab. Yes. Okay. Just click on the security only. Others can keep on following it.
You already have organization, reload this page or reach out to Google support.
Okay. So fine. If that do not work for you because you don't have an organization setup, let me continue sharing my screen then.
Okay.
That's a good catch here also, as I asked you to share, right?
Okay.
Let me take back the screen. Fine. So while I'm going to explain you the security command center, just have a look. I do have my organization set up here, right? So this is the cloudexpertshub.com organization that I have set up. Now within that, I have my project, right? I want to share some more. Okay, before that, let's continue with this our approach of cloud security. Let's go to security. Now, as I had enabled the API, you mean, okay, you are not able to see this. So let's see if I can disable it one more time and then try to come back here. Okay, it seems I cannot disable that as of now, but that's fine. Let's just have a quick look at how the security command center looks like, right? So here, what it does, it helps me in finding out any of these active vulnerabilities. Okay, I can identify it based on different categories. I can also identify based on the resource type, like whether it's a compute engine or app engine or any other type, right? I can also try to segregate based on a project, like on which project, what are their findings. So it is giving me a centralized view to scan through any of the projects and list down all of the compliance errors, any threats, anything that it is able to see, right? It gives me a the view for any of sort of threats, the any vulnerabilities that we have seen. Also, if you see here, like the last time when I was working with this cloud data prop, okay? The image is outdated. That is what it's saying. I have not enforced any of the MFA. What is MFA? Anyone? Okay, you can already see here. So multi-factor authentication, right? So it should be enabled. That is as a recommendation here, right? So it is talking about the recommendations. Okay? So you can really find out what are the different set of recommendations. Okay, and even if you see here, this is another one which is talking about the public IP should not be enabled. Again, that is a recommendation. So when we were actually working with the cloud computing instance lab, we had enabled the public IP, which is not recommended, and it is being listed down here as a vulnerabilities, right? It is not saying that you cannot do it, but you should not practice it. Okay. So similar to that, you can find multiple other vulnerabilities. Also, I can look into the compliance if there was any. As of now, we don't have any compliance error to be seen, but it did talk about what sort of compliance, like PSI, DSS, NIST 800, like that. There can be multiple of it. Okay, and the very important one is it gives me a view of what all services I have active, I have created on this platform, on maybe on this project, right? So this is about the resource or the asset that we have created, the resources we have created, you can say. Okay, and also I'm able to get the kind of view of where they are deployed. So as you can see, I have my resources being created at multiple locations. These locations are the regions, and I do also have some of the resources which is only created globally. Okay, that acts at a global level. Okay, like I have some of the default firewall rules here. Right, we are going to see that with the lab also. Fine. Now, so this is very important dashboard. So earlier, what used to happen, though we still have this limitation of it can be only created when you have an organizational setup, right? But even with the organizational setup, I was earlier I was able to see it only when I had kind of a premium tier enabled, and it was created at the organization level only, at this stage only when I have this, right? So now the enhancement that is being done by Google Cloud is that now they have enabled it even for the project level. So even at the project, I'm able to visualize what sort of permissions I have. So here, if you see, I have selected this standard one. It is free to use without any costing. If I had selected a premium one, this is too costly. And I mean, people really do not touch the security command center during any sort of learning. Okay, because this is very kind of costly service to deal with. Okay, fine. So, okay, so you got the assets, you can actually find out what all vulnerabilities are there, what all threats are there. Okay, even you can see here, you can find out what are the misconfiguration, the observations, if there are any errors, right? All sort of this, even based on the severity of this uh, compliance error or the threats can be listed down, and we can further automate it for our use cases, our requirement to deal with it maybe in an automatic manner, or to get notified whenever such critical severities are happening. And obviously we can create you can say a maybe P1 ticket or something and assign to someone. So someone working into the operation side of it, you can definitely relate how it works on the cloud. Fine, and there are multiple other ways which I am not going deeper. For now, I think this should be fine from the security command center perspective. Fine. Okay. Now let's go back again. So we talked about the security command center as well. Next, we will be moving to the lab. The lab that we are going to work with is creating a firewall rule. Give me a second. Okay. So creating a firewall rule to connect to a compute engine instance. That's the lab we are going to try out. Fine. So let's do that. Now again, Raju, you can definitely go ahead and share your screen, and others can follow here. Okay, so let me stop the sharing and you can go ahead. Yes.
Sharing.
Okay.
Able to see?
Yes, Raju, I can see you. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay. So as we continue till this point of time, anyone has any questions that you want to raise? No questions? Fine. If there is no question, let me first raise a question from my side. What is a firewall? What is your understanding? Anyone
Firewall
can.
is a
Yeah.
restriction. You can say like that. That is a security gate. Whenever
Mhm.
any person is coming, that is a security gate. So that person is authentic or not. On that basis, firewall is deciding they will allow or deny.
Okay. Okay. That's like a traffic signal.
Yes.
Okay. Fine. Okay. So if you have that sort of understanding, now let's understand it from the cloud perspective. So on the cloud platform, this is, and even on the on-premises also, this is something created within the backend. I mean, we are not creating the firewall rules on the front end side of it. It is within the backend. Like whenever someone is trying to request some resource from external side, they are going to touch the backend, and the backend is going to analyze if I have a firewall rule set up for the requested resource. If that is there in place, now let's see if it lets me do the things or it denies it, right? So based on that, only the resources are being enabled or accessed to the external world. Otherwise, you cannot have access to it, right? So just be clear with this. They are deployed in the backend. Fine. So let's continue here and let's go ahead. Everyone, go to compute engine instance and create a compute engine instance now. Yes,
Virtual
Raju, select.
machine we will create, correct?
Yes, virtual machine instances. We did this lab, right?
Yes, yes.
Can you create that now?
Done, but not came anything.
Oh, I did not see that selected. Select VM instances. Okay. Fine. Now let it be the default. Don't touch anything. Come down.
Location not change.
No, nothing you have to change. Just
Okay.
scroll down. Yes. Come down to the networking. Yes. Okay.
Firewall.
Now, yes. So you don't have to enable from there itself. Let's we'll be creating it by us. Okay.
Okay.
So here, yes, click on advanced options, and you can see there is networking. Okay. Now there you enter network tags. So give anything. Yeah.
We have to follow, right?
Yes, we have to follow it.
Okay.
Raju, can you name it something different, like not network one, that is not very meaningful. So maybe you can
Web network.
compute.
Network web.
Yes, web instance, something like that. Web
Web.
server, or maybe no, just name it web server.
Okay, web server.
Mm-hmm.
Server. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, done.
Host name need to give.
Nothing else. Just create the instance.
IP forward, nothing to be done.
No, nothing.
Okay.
The lab is about the firewall instead
Okay.
of focusing on the computer instance.
Okay.
One thing that we wanted to edit here is we don't want to expose the uh, the public IP.
Okay.
So you have, once it is created, you need to edit it back. Yes, you can see there is an external IP created for it, right?
Yes.
So as long as you have a public IP created, anyone can go ahead and then access the resource. using the public IPs, right?
Okay.
So we don't want that. We want to restrict it to limited set of IPs, the external IPs, who can actually come and access this resource, right? So first of all, you make a note of the internal IP address, copy
Okay.
that somewhere. Done?
Just a second. Public IP only, correct?
Yes, the internal, no, that is external IP.
Internal IP we need to copy?
Yes, internal IP. Also make a note of the network tag that you had created.
Web server.
Yes.
Web server. Web server.
Okay.
Okay.
Now open this instance and edit it to disable the public IP.
Open. There's no option where to do that.
You have to click on the instance name, instance 1.
Okay.
Edit. You can see on the screen there is edit button. Come down, go to the networks, right? You have to click on network interfaces. Yeah, come, yes, right. Yes, click on that, the default one. Right. Then click on the subnetworks. Okay, come down. Come down. Okay. Okay, let's come down a bit more. Do you see? Okay. Yeah. Go a little up. Go a little up. Okay. Everyone, are you able to follow so far?
For me, this option is not allowing. It's saying the instance is running.
Okay. So did you already started the instance?
We just created an instance like.
Okay. So when you when you created, can you click on the instance again and go to the edit mode of it?
Yes, that's what I'm in edit mode.
Okay, so if you have clicked on, if it is enabled for you as the edit mode, then can you come down and go to the network interfaces?
Yes.
You reach there?
Yes.
Okay, expand the default network that you can see.
That button, when I click, it says the instance is currently running.
Yeah, it is running, but it can just go down, right? It is already there. I mean, you can see IP stack type, everything is there, right?
Yes.
Okay, now come down. Raju, can you come down? Yes, wait. Yeah, they're there only, just little up. Yes, now you can see two things. Internal IP addresses. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, and there is an external IP address as well. Just below add IP range, you can see external IP addresses, right?
Yes.
Okay, now it says that it is ephemeral. Okay, which means as soon as you stop this VM, the IP address linked with it will be gone because you have not reserved it, right? So it is going to it is going to vanish away, so it is not going to be there, right? But in our scenario, what we are actually interested in is we don't want to enable any public IP, right? So you have to select none. Okay, click on done. Okay, and then save it. Raju, can you save it down? I mean, the bottom, it is already showing save and cancel. Yeah, save it. Okay, so far everyone here?
Yes.
Raja, Saif, Yusuf, how about you?
Got.
Okay. Saif?
Yeah, Jitu, all looks fine. I think I just joined up in between. I probably need to go through this recording once more, but I think, yeah, more or less covered What you covered is fine only. I probably
Okay.
need to do it once on my own, then we'll get to know.
Sure, no problem. And
Really like
Yusuf,
it.
Yusuf, how about you? You are done so far, right?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay, that's great. Okay, so now let's move next. So we got this VM running. We have an internal IP with it, and we have a network tag added as a web server, right? Now, Rajiv, can you
Yes.
open a new tab?
Okay. Okay.
Open this same console. Like you
Okay.
can probably duplicate the same. Yeah. Right. Okay. Now go to the. Click on that hamburger sign and then look for the network, VPC network. Yeah. So click on that and look for VPC. Yes. And then you will see firewall. Right.
Yes. Clicked.
Okay. Now this is where here we create the network. The firewall policies or even the firewall rules as well. Okay. We want to create a firewall rule. Can you click on hide info panel? Fine. Okay, come down. Okay. Now here you should be seeing an option to create a firewall rule.
Create
That's
firewall policy. Correct.
no, that is for firewall policy. You should see an option to create firewall rules.
Yeah, at the top only for me it's visible. Beside create firewall policy.
Okay, maybe you can click on three dots.
Feed.
Three dots on this firewall policy. Yeah. Right.
Yes.
Okay, click on that. Great. Now create a firewall rule named allow web service or web server. Allow. Fine. Come down. If you want, you can add a description, but that is not mandatory, right? I don't
Yes.
want to generate. Okay, just go a little up. A little up. That's all. I don't want to generate any logs at this point of time, but if I want to look through what all sort of configurations are being done with the firewall rules, because it is very important, and we generally do not allow everyone to access the firewall rules or let them create any firewall rules. Okay. So here, because it is going to expose your environment to the public if it is not created correctly, which is very dangerous. So now here we are not going to allow or any of the logs. Next is the network that where we are going to create this firewall rule. The network here is what? VPC, that is virtual private cloud. Okay. So now that virtual private cloud that we are talking about is the default one for now. So default is already selected. We can give a priority for it. So priorities, let's understand how the priority works. So if you have the lesser number, okay, that is it is more higher, having the higher priority. Lesser number means if it is like 100, 200, I can have a 50, 1, anything, right? A integer, a positive integer with lesser number is going to have higher priority, and the less, it can go till the 1, okay, but it can be moved to the less and less priority when we are using the higher integers. So you can see on the priority itself where it is written 1000. So you can see there is a priority cannot be 0, okay, but it can be a priority can be 0 until the 65535, right? So till that you can actually set up the priorities. So you should be able to manage the priorities accordingly. For now, let's go with maybe we can make it 100. Okay, fine. We are allowing a direct. Now here you need to provide what sort of what is the direction of the traffic that you are going to allow, because it's a stateful service where you are going to let it do like, okay, so someone externally is going to come inside the cloud environment, that becomes ingress. When we are trying to access the external services, external third-party services from the internal resource, then it becomes the egress, right? So ingress and egress, important topic, right? So that is deciding the direction of the traffic. The next is action on match. If suppose the priority that you are setting, the network that you have, okay, and then what should be your target and source, if that is going to match, so what you are going to do with it? Either you are allowing it to access the resource or you want to deny it. So here I want to allow access to external world, okay, for a specific resource. So action is going to be allowed, then come down, okay. Now you can see the target, okay. So targets, if you can click on the target drop down, you can see we have the specified target tags, all instances in the network, okay, or specified service account. So whenever I'm creating a compute engine instance, I will have a service account, default service account attached to it. For now, we have created a specified target tags like the network tag that we created. And we can also allow all the instances in this VPC, in this network, to be able to be accessible from external world, right? So I don't want to go for the all instances. I want to only target a specific set of compute engine instance having the network tags as the web server only, right? So that is what I'm going to allow access to. So why we use network tags? Understand the science behind the network tags. Now I can have thousands of VMs created with the command line itself. And there, one thing that I'm going to ensure is all of these are having a network tag as web service or web server, because they are only deploying a web server on their machines, right? So it makes me easy to maintain or work with multiple thousands of VMs whenever I'm going to create a firewall rule for it, right? So there I will have the specified network tag. Now select the specified network tag, I mean the target tag. Okay, now enter the target tag what you had created. What was the network tag? Raju, what was the network tag?
Network web servers.
There was no
No.
network web server. It was only web server that you wrote, right?
Web server.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, good. Now, what should be the source? Okay, now here the source is going to be external machine from where you are going to try accessing it, right?
Yes.
So for now, let's keep it. Okay, just make it IPv4 ranges itself. There can be IPv4 or IPv6 kind of ranges. Now for source, let's for now keep it for time being only. Okay, so make it. You can see the example here, 0.0.0. Okay, so 4 zeros forward slash another 0.
Yes.
So can you use the same? Done, right?
Yes.
Okay, now you are going to allow a specified protocol or the ports, right?
Yes.
So can you give TCP? Okay, and we can enter. Okay, here we are not able to get TCP 22. I'm not sure. I think I'm missing somewhere. Anyway, so enter TCP 22. That is one for the secure cell. Okay, you can also try to give. Okay, so maybe you can try with the other protocols. Keep that TCP for now. Okay, no, not there. I mean the TCP is fine. 22. Leave that there and click on this other. Right. Okay. Enter SSH.
Capital letter will take.
No, just use a small one. Okay, I think I'm missing something. Give me a second quickly, okay? Just give me a second. Just allow me a second. I should be done. Right. So TCP22 is fine. You don't have to enter any SSH or anything. Okay. You can untake the right. Okay. So TCP22 will allow us to connect to the SSH. I mean through the SSH to this instance. Right. Now you can go ahead and create this firewall rule. Done. Okay. It has been created. Go to the very first tab and go back to the instances. Okay. I think you had already saved it, right? Okay. Maybe you can click on VM instances. Yes. Now, can you click on SSH? Though we only have the internal IP address, SSH into this machine. Let's see if that works. Did you click on SSH? Raju, are you there?
Jitendra, I'm here.
Okay. So did you click on SSH?
Yes, clicked.
No, it is not. Otherwise, it will open a new window.
Console came.
Where is it? Can you show that?
Okay, let me share the screen. Now able to see?
Yes, I can see that. Okay.
Okay.
Now, can you give the link to this particular URL to in the chat?
Given.
Okay. Let me check it. Okay. So if you see, as of now, you are able to access this instance, right? Though you are only using the public internal IP address, because you have allowed access to this instance to any of the IPs should be able to access it. Okay. Now let's make a modification to this firewall rule.
Okay.
Go back to the previous screen and to the firewall rules.
Okay.
I think you need to reshare your screen.
Okay. Okay. This is the firewall policy.
No, the firewall rule.
Yes.
Okay. Open the firewall rule that we created just now.
Where we will get that?
Scroll down.
Allow web service. This is
Right. Okay. There is one more concern here. Can you go back? You already had a default SSH firewall rule created, right? Can you delete it first? Can you see that default allow SSH?
yes.
Yeah, go ahead and delete it. No, you won't be able to delete from there. Go up. Right.
Done. Okay, this is going on.
Okay. Now do you still able to access this SSH VM? Raju, you have to share your full screen. Otherwise, you have to keep on dropping and reshare it. Can you reshare with full screen? Raju?
Sharing, Jitendra.
Okay.
Okay, I'm sharing.
Okay. Okay, fine. So can you go to the secure cell that you had started before?
Okay. Why did it go on?
It will be on the web page itself, right?
Yeah.
I mean, go to the Chrome directly.
Yeah. I'm in the Chrome.
Yes. So you have two windows open on the Chrome bottom, if you see. Click on the Chrome. You will see yes.
Yes.
So can you run any commands like ls or anything? Okay. So the command is still working, right?
Yes.
Now go back to your firewall rule and deny this permission. Web service. Click on this allow web service. Edit. And now just say that deny, like in the action on match.
You see action on match, allow web service.
Scroll down. Right. Wait. So you can see go a little up. Right. So you have the direction as allow, right? Okay. That will not let you change it from here. So better what you can do. Okay. So instead of using this source IP range, we could have something different. But I wanted to test it out with something different. Okay, no problem. So let's create a new firewall rule. Same thing, but we are going to create a deny policy.
Okay.
Okay. You can delete this one. You can delete this firewall rule. Even deleting this firewall rule itself will ensure you are not able to access it. So you can even give it a try. Now go to the VM instances one more time.
Go to VM instances, then
right, click on SSH. It will try to go through the IAP instead, if it is allowing. Yes. So transferring SSH keys to VM. Let's see. We don't have any allow policy to pass on the SSH because the default we have already deleted, and we have also deleted the one that we created manually, right? So let's see. Okay, click authorize. So even if it is doing, see, it is going through the IAP. That is the identity aware proxy. Not working, right?
working, Jitendra.
No. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So you can see here, any time when you are creating any instances, you should have the internal IP addresses, right? That is one. Now you want to control how anyone is able to access your resource, correct? So here I'm going to control it using different ways. I can use the tagging with like the network tags, or I could have all instances, or I can go with just using the service account, which is a best practice, because a service account is going to be unique for individual compute service, right? So I can even use that. Now in this particular scenario, what we have learned, everyone, for you, So if you can see, you have followed so far, even you should also see you must not be able to connect to these instances now. Is everyone on the same page? Just show your
Yeah.
reactions with
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that is good, fine. Okay, thanks for confirming. So this is how the firewall rules work. We can have even more and more complex firewall rules to allow even the messaging server. Yes, so you can see uh, uh, even the cloud identity aware proxy is also failing because we have not allowed anyone to access that instance. That is very much private to the VPC, the virtual private cloud, with having their internal IP addresses only. Okay, and that's how the firewall rule works altogether. Okay, so that would be all for this lab, but even if you want to play with it, you can try with some other ports as well, like you install a web service on the VM. Okay, and then add a firewall rule to allow the access through the port 80 or maybe port 443 for HTTPS, right? So that's how you can actually create all sort of these policies. Even for databases also you have to create the similar way. This is not only going to work only for the compute engine, but you want to create a firewall rule to connect or establish a connection to the Cloud SQL instance. When we worked with the Cloud SQL lab, so we had a Cloud SQL instance created, which is also working on a certain port. So we can have a firewall rule created saying that only a certain list of application having certain IP address or it is working from on premises should be able to access my service on the Google Cloud platform for so and so port. Okay, and that I can control with the help of the firewall rules. Okay, so that would be all from the security services perspective, covering a good lab here and also a good amount of theory that we discussed so far in last 2 days, right? I mean, yesterday and today. So now, is there anything else that we have a question?
In company scenario, one question is very common. They are asking in the terms of how you will block the any certain IPs or unauthorized any connections to from the outside of the world to this VM or something.
Okay, that's a really good question, Rajiv. What I would suggest, can you update the same in the question bank also? Okay, for the
Okay.
record.
Okay.
Now, to answer how we control it, how we stop the communication for a certain IP or all the IPs, but only allow a certain IP, right? We can have both the scenario.
Types of question come.
Sorry.
Types will be the scenario. One, how we will control of certain IP or how we will control a specific, how we will allow a specific IP.
Right. So just now we saw that when we created the firewall rules, in this scenario, we had allowed every IP, all the IPs. Okay. So one thing is that we allow all of the IPs to access a compute engine. Like here, a compute engine, when I say, I'm actually referring to a particular resource on the cloud platform. Instead of a compute engine, I could have maybe Cloud Run, Kubernetes, okay, or maybe the SQL. So I could have gone with those certain list of resources which will always have a IP address attached to it, the internal IP address, right? That is how it's their address, right? So that is how we are able to reach out to them. Now I can go with this allow, and then from the external source, I will be listing out, okay, this is the IP only which should able to access it. So the way that you created this source IP range, right? The IPv4 range. Can you go to the firewall page again?
Okay.
You can cancel it. That's completely fine. Yeah. Okay. Now you can see here. Come down. First of all, you need to set up the priorities. Priorities are very important because the priority is going to decide which rule should be checked first and then which should be followed later. So here I am saying that the SSH has to be checked first. If there is something more on top of, I mean, less privileged, that will be checked later. So it can actually, if I am saying that allow only this array and deny the certain of it, I can give that more priority, more weightage using the priority integer, which the priority should be like if I'm giving instead of 100 I'm giving 90 for denying certain IP, then that will be taking precedence and it will try to avoid access to that IP and let allow for any other list of IPs or all the IPs, right? So I can certainly use a deny option for blocking a certain IP range with higher priority, right? So I will say deny, then the priority can be, if I had used earlier 100, I will say, okay, take it maybe 99, 90 or anything, which is lesser than that, which takes more priority here, right? So that I'm going to give. Now I have the source targets or service account or the all instances, that is one option. Then in the source, I mean, that was for target. Now in the source, if you come down, in the source field, you had given 0.0.0.0 right? That is like whole world can access it. But when I want to limit it, I will be using a public, another public IP with the forward slash. Instead of 0, I will be using 32 as the range. 32 is only considering only one IP address. Forward slash 32 considers only one IP range. Okay.
Okay.
And that is how just you can take only one particular IP for yes, you can see here. So you have like 24 as also another option like that. Now 000, that is not going to be like forward slash 32 is not going to work. Okay, that is like you are allowing everything otherwise also. So that's not a right approach. You will obviously have an IP address attached to any domain. Now you need to first identify what is the IP address for a domain from where I want to allow the access. Like you can see here in this scenario, just go to the next tab, a new tab. Okay, let's continue for another 5-10 minutes and then understand this. Now type what is my IP address. Yes. Now search for that. Open this first link. Okay. Now, if you see, this is the IP address for your system as of now. Once you restart, it may change. Okay. So for now, this is the IP range. So whenever you are going to assign or let access to only, those environment from your own system, what you will do, you will take this complete IP address. You can copy it. Okay. Then you can go to the firewall rule. And here you can enter first of all, and then make forward slash 32. Okay. Now this restricts the VM instances to be accessible only from the source IP range of, or the source IP of your own system only. No one else can come and access the VM. Okay. So now it kept completely private to you.
Okay.
Okay. And that's how we are able to achieve the requirement that you talk about. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So Naresh, I believe you got a question.
No, it's clear now.
Okay. Okay. Fine. Fine then. Anyone else has got any question now?
No.
Yeah. Fine.
Instead of
So
32, if we have 24 16, so
yeah.
that will
So
be
for that, okay. Maybe you can make a note. I'll be sharing the links as well. So let me do it now. So you need to understand how the CIDR range works. Okay, that's completely a networking concept. Though I want to cover that, but it's a bit of complex. I don't want to stretch you further on this, and definitely that should not be part of this particular program. Okay, well, that's too much on the networking side.
I'll do that.
Yeah,
So
for now I'm just
so I'll just ask you.
Yusuf, your voice is not that clear, but I have shared a link for the understanding of the IP, the CIDR range. Okay. Yeah. So how we convert a CIDR range to IP address, that's how it works, right? you can definitely have a look. You can also make a note of this, what's my IP address, to easily get your IP address whenever you are working on resolving any of these issues. Okay. Sure, Saf, yeah, go ahead. Okay. So yes, let me stop the recording then.